everyone, welcome to this explainer. If you've ever felt like English rules are just this giant random puzzle of do's and don'ts, well, today is the day that completely changes. We're going to map out exactly how this language actually works, creating your ultimate study guide. At its core, language is all about clarity. And that clarity, it really relies on two hidden engines. On one side, we've got symbols. These pace us, telling us exactly when to breathe or how much emotion to inject. And on the other side, we have specific words that measure our world, keeping our nouns mathematically logical. Honestly, mastering English just means mastering the dance between these two engines. So here is our game plan for today. We'll start with the grammar toolkit, then master some punctuation rules, tackle tricky commas and apostrophes, dive into the rules of quantifiers, compare the two side by side, and wrap it all up with your ultimate study guide.
All right, let's jump right into part one, the grammar toolkit.
So the really crucial point here is that punctuation acts as the visual cue. They literally tell the reader how to hear your voice, when to stop, when to ask a question, when to shout. Quantifiers, on the other hand, operate on pure mathematical logic. They're the essential words dictating amounts, and it's entirely based on what can and cannot be counted. Basically, one is about rhythm and the other is about reality. Moving right along to part two, we are mastering punctuation rules. Think about how end marks just completely shift the entire energy of a thought. A period keeps a sentence like, "Albert is my good friend," totally neutral, right? It's just a stated fact. But if you swap out that little dot for an exclamation point, what a surprise, suddenly bursts with emotion. That tiny symbol does absolutely all the heavy lifting for the emotional volume of your words. Now, you absolutely need to know these four sentence types because they're the structural foundation of your writing. A declarative statement needs a period. An interrogative asks a question, so naturally your voice goes up at the end. An imperative gives a command. And an exclamatory statement, well, that demands energy. It's a pretty simple rule, but man, it dictates your entire grammatical tone. Okay, on to part three, tricky commas and apostrophes. I like to think of the comma as your sentence's breath. Mastering its 5 specific jobs is literally the fastest way to instantly improve your clarity. Whether you're separating your 2 apples and 3 oranges in a list, dividing adjectives to describe a tall, handsome man, or just pausing for a direct address, like, "Yes, George." These tiny little curves stop your ideas from just crashing right into each other. And then we have the apostrophe, which lives this fascinating sort of dual life. Job number 1 is possession. It shows ownership like John's dog or my parents' wedding photo. And notice how the apostrophe actually goes after the S for plural parents. Job number 2 is contraction. It literally holds space for missing letters, smashing words together, like turning do not into don't. Now here is the golden exception rule, the ultimate trap that catches so many writers. It's, without an apostrophe, shows possession, like the dog wagged its tail. But it's with an apostrophe. That is only ever a contraction for it is or it has, as in, it's a beautiful day. If you lock this exception down, you will immediately elevate your writing.
Let's shift gears to part 4, the rules of quantifiers.
So the absolutely crucial thing to do before using any quantifier is you have to categorize your noun. Is it a countable physical object, like 1 book or 2 cars? Or is it an uncountable mass, concept, or liquid, like water, advice, or money? I mean, you can't have a money or 2 waters, right? This single distinction is the master key that unlocks all the quantifier rules that follow. Just look at how logically this matrix comes together. Some and any pivot almost entirely on the tone of the sentence. You'd use some for positive statements, like I have some money, and any for negatives, like I don't have any money. But many and much, they pivot strictly on countability. So you use many for countable things like friends, and much for uncountable things like time. This next part is a massive nuance, and honestly, I love how English does this. Simply adding the letter A changes your entire outlook on life. If you say, "I have few friends," or "I have little money" without the A, it carries a negative meaning. It means almost none. You're lonely and broke. But if you say, "I have a few friends," or "a little money," suddenly it's positive. You have a small but sufficient amount. One single letter changes the whole shebang. All right, part 5, punctuation versus quantifiers compared. Let's put our core thesis to the test here. Check out sentence A. Yes, it's 2:45, George. This sentence relies entirely on visual pauses and symbols for its clarity. We've got an introductory comma after yes, a contraction apostrophe in its, and a direct address comma before George. Now contrast that with sentence B. There isn't much milk left. This one relies entirely on mathematical noun agreement. Milk is uncountable, isn't is negative, so the math literally forces us to use the quantifier much. To really summarize this whole dynamic, think of punctuation as the sheet music. It tells you exactly how to perform the sentence, where to take a breath, and whose voice is speaking. Quantifiers, well, they're the structural beams holding the logic together. They make sure the amount you're describing perfectly aligns with the physical reality of the noun, and whether you're making a positive statement or dealing with a negative reality. And finally, part 6, your ultimate study guide. I want you to lock this master cheat sheet into your memory. This matrix perfectly encapsulates the absolute foundation of writing clear, logically sound, and perfectly paced English. If you can just remember that commas have 5 distinct jobs, the dual life of the apostrophe, the hard line between countable and uncountable nouns, and the subtle, sneaky power of the letter A in quantifiers, you basically hold the keys to the language. Before we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a challenge. Try to dissect this final sentence. He has a little money, but it's not enough to buy bread at the baker's, is it? How many rules from today's explainer can you find hidden inside there? Look for the positive uncountable quantifier, the contraction apostrophe, the possessive apostrophe, and that negative question tag at the end. Master the sentence, and you have officially mastered the hidden engines of English. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.